Very good afternoon to all of you, cherished viewers of Hot Issues, and welcome to another exciting edition of Hot Issues. So, the president has met the press. Well, he's been accounting. He says it's been 6 months of results. I don't know what your thoughts are, but this afternoon on Hot Issues, we'll be finding out from one man who has some thoughts on what the president said. My name is Winston Amo, and this is Hot Issues on TV3. Stay with us. When we return after the break, I'll introduce my guest, and then we'll begin an assessment of the responses that the president gave to the questions that he was asked. All right, so welcome back from that short break, and thanks for staying with us. This is Hot Issues. So this afternoon we've been joined by a member of parliament for Bolgatanga Central, and also a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, Isaac ADONGO. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I believe you're doing very well.
Yeah, by His grace, I'm okay.
You're enjoying your time in opposition?
My time in Parliament, my time working for Ghana, and making sure that the government is on its toes. Yes, I'm enjoying that.
What about being in opposition? How is it?
It's a process. It's a learning curve, and it's one that gives us an opportunity to demonstrate to the people of Ghana that we're a government in waiting, and we must always have an opposition one way or the other. And the people of Ghana spoke. We accepted the verdict that they gave, and as a result of that, we are working in the role that the people of Ghana have assigned us for now. And I'm sure at the right time, if they feel that it's appropriate for us to come back, they'll reassign us to lead this country.
So the excitement about it is that the Ghanaians then get to know that you are a competent government in waiting.
Yes, but also they have an opportunity to compare competence with incompetence. And at the end of the day, that gives them a proper verdict once more.
And you think so far Ghanaians are beginning to see the incompetence of the NPP?
So far, you can see a government that is struggling. You can see a government that is struggling to move from propaganda to reality. I have said most of the time that when you allow propaganda lectures, to become manifesto promise, you can be forgiven. But when you allow that propaganda to become government policy, then you have a challenge implementing them, because propaganda is far distant from reality. And that is what we are seeing now.
And propaganda, you're referring to falsehoods?
I'm referring to some of the claims. I'm referring to some of the huge, high-sounding promises that are not backed by the capacity of this country, that are not backed by the reality of our circumstances.
What are some of those promises?
Some of those are basically trying to create heaven out of a difficult situation.
Such as?
Such as providing free education for everybody at a time that we are struggling to even know how much will it cost us to roll out that program. We are 6 months into government. We are basically ending the first year of our budget, and we still don't know next year how much it will cost us. But if you look at our public financial management...
Yeah, the next year there will be a next year budget.
Yes, so but you see, when our Public Financial Management Act makes it very clear that when you are undertaking a major medium-term project that has implications beyond the year of implementation, you need to give an indication even in the budget. That's why we have multi-year budget expenditure
framework. I don't know why they've indicated they're going to use the petroleum revenue, the annual budget funding amount, and so based on that amount, for instance, they could make provisions for it.
They've already made provisions, and we're having 400 million Ghana cedis for this year, and that is only for 3 months. That is from September to December. But I'm saying beyond December, what next? We should have had a proper view of that, because this is not a one-year project.
You would have it in November.
Why wait till November? It is a major government policy. We need to have a major consensus around it. We need to be very clear in our mind what exactly do we mean by free education, what exactly are the parameters for achieving the success rate that we want.
Is it achievable?
At this moment in time, yes, it's achievable, but if it is done progressively, because we're looking at the resource implications. We're looking at the capacity of the country to absorb every single child, to have a decent infrastructure to accommodate those children. And so we in the NDC believe that having every child get free education is the way to go.
Do you believe the NPP can do it in the form they want to do it?
I believe that the challenge of this project now is how do we even get enough spaces for the children? That is a major challenge that has not been addressed.
Your government embarked on 200 secondary schools. Some have been completed.
They have decided not to commission most of them.
But some have been completed. Some were commissioned by the former president.
By us, but after the former president...
So those can be used.
But after the former president left office, what has happened to
it doesn't mean they cannot be used, does it?
They haven't been completed. The government
some,
has...
You said you had completed about 28 to 40 of them. Those ones can be used.
We have close to 70 on the ground now that,
they
have not been commissioned. We don't even know. Government is not even willing to pay the cost of those who constructed those projects. And
government has made it clear they're going to use some of those schools and even convert some of them into boarding schools. And so that's, if you want their point on, that's what they've said.
Again, that's a major shift from the policy intent of building those schools.
Okay.
We wanted to bring schools closer to the people and to make sure that the children have access to those schools in a way that didn't compel them to leave their homes to go and stay in those schools, and in a way that provided higher occupancy classrooms for these children. Today, you're talking about moving them to stay in those schools when we didn't provide dormitories, and we haven't seen any clear program to reconfigure those schools to provide the capacity to accommodate students.
Okay.
Have you seen anything like that? I haven't.
Yet to. Anyway, so what's your assessment of the president's performance during this encounter with the media?
Clearly, when I put two major documents together, I don't see the need for that engagement. One, if you look at the president's own State of the Nation's address, and if you look at the president's budget, you put them together, that's exactly what we were told again. We were just brought to rehash the budget and the State of the Nation's address. We were expecting that there will be specifics, that after 6 months of being in office, this is where we are with each particular flagship project. Then people can assess, and having to indicate where we are with each flagship project doesn't necessarily mean that you may have clear, what do you call it, targets that you have achieved. But at least you would have shown that there's progress in terms of the planning framework, in terms of work plans, in terms of funding arrangement, in terms of identifying and doing feasibility on some of them. Then we know that there's some work that is going on. But if you come and you still tell us one village, one dam, one district, one factory, how many dams have you done feasibilities on? How many communities have you engaged in order to understand where you can locate a dam? You know, you don't necessarily...
It says they're about to start work on the already existing dams.
Is that what the president told you?
Yes, that's what he said.
Yes, which are the existing dams?
How many
a day?
How
many? I don't. He never told us. I mean,
he wanted a specific figure of the number
because we want to know, even at this point, that the president should be able to tell us that their assessment shows that there are 10,000 communities or 5,000 communities that need to have these dams. And therefore, based on 5,000, we have identified 10,000, or we have identified 3,000 or 2,000 or 1,000. And out of that, we have done feasibility on about 3 or 4 or 5. That hasn't been done. You have no clue. So what did we hear during the State of the Nation and in the budget that we have heard differently now? You are just repeating the same.
You think that's an exercise in futility then?
An exercise that is not necessary, because at the end of the day, we have all that information already. What was new? Nothing. If you talk about one district, one factory, what was new? The same things we've been hearing every day. I would have wished that they would have told me now, yeah, they've identified particular communities, and those communities or districts, these are the areas of intervention that we want to go into, even if we cannot roll out now because it is a process. We need to have that engagement.
Yes, but well, I mean, if the president decides to meet Ghanaians and decides to meet the media, wouldn't it be appropriate for him to tell us what some of his appointees have said, coming from him since he's the one we voted for, and then begin to take questions from the media?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He has the right to do so. Okay. But I'm saying at the end of the day, what is the substance? The substance is that people are very excited that the president is going to sell us something in 6 months. Mm-hmm. But the president tells us something that he has told us that we should expect at the end of the year or at the end of his tenure, which he has told us already. And so, yes, you have an opportunity, but an opportunity to put focus on the things that you've been doing over the last couple of months.
Are you suggesting there have been no achievements? He says it's 6 months of results.
What are the results? He hasn't given me the indication and the comfort that there are results. Did he give no results?
There's a fight against Galamsey. Ghana Water is beginning to say that their, water bodies are getting cleaner by the day as that fight continues. That's not a result?
As we speak, he tells her that there's a multilateral mining project or something. I don't know how you call that. Yes, that is some kind of indication that we are beginning to move in a coordinated effort.
So there are some results.
Yeah, so those kinds of indication, then we can begin to interrogate that project, where we are, okay, then the minister can give more clarity on where we are.
So at least you had something that you would want to interrogate.
That is one point.
Honorable Adongo,
yes.
At least you had something which you say we're beginning to move in a coordinated area, and you can then go ahead to interrogate.
Exactly.
That's something you hadn't had.
Yeah, exactly. That is something. That is something that the minister himself had mentioned before. But I was happy to hear that at least there is a project that we can now begin to focus on the minister to say, where are you with this? Even if the president cannot give that detail. For instance, planting for food and jobs. No clarity. Did you mention even your work plan for implementing the planting for food and jobs? There are armyworms that are devastating farms all over the place. What is our own view on how we are dealing with that? No clue.
He talked about it. He admitted
he mentioned that. He mentioned it, but
there's a committee in place that is working on dealing with it.
That is a generic statement. That is basically an omnibus term.
So far, 14,000 hectares of farmlands have been destroyed. In over 140,000 have been 14,000 have been affected.
Yes,
and so that's a bit of
that is something we already knew.
You knew that already?
Because we invited the Minister of Agriculture to come and answer questions on the armyworms. But at least the President is also aware that farmers are so desperate, they are finding innovative ways to deal with the problem.
And those innovative ways are working for them?
Including using clean Omo and other detergents.
But that works.
Is that the solution?
It is part of the solution. Because
the people can't find, can't find leadership. They can't find leadership in dealing with this matter. Government is unable to provide the leadership. The people are struggling to save their farms.
In North America, it is known that you can use detergent to fight fall armyworms.
We were told.
I have heard from Dr. Hammond, who is the Food and Agriculture Organization's consultant leading this fight, admit that it's a way of fighting it. So, well, farmers know their farms better.
So why didn't they tell the farmers from day one that they should go for the rest of the clean the clean detergent that are in the system? They should have just said so, so that we know that this is the solution. The government says it has a solution. The farmers are so desperate, they must save their farms. Now you turn around to say, oh, what they are doing is all right. And yet that is not a government position. Has government come out to now confirm that farmers should go for clean to be able to save their farms? Government should make that policy statement so farmers can be supported to do it. Government hasn't said that. Government's own focus is still on something else. And you're saying it is working in the U.S. Farmers don't know what's happening in the U.S. Government knows it. Government has to make a policy statement to say farmers should use the detergent that's available. And we will support the farmers to do so.
And you would support government to go ahead on that?
Well, if that's government's policy, we'll interrogate it further and see whether that really is the kind of armyworms you find in the U.S. are the type that have migrated to our lands. If that is the case, then you have a solution. You cannot say something works in the U.S. and you are dealing with a temperate environment and you are dealing with a tropical environment and you're saying you can just suppose a solution. If that is the case, let our scientists tell us and we'll pursue that.
No, Dr. Hammond has said it.
Dr. Hammond hasn't said it can be applicable to the kind of armyworms we have in Ghana.
Well, he says it's applicable. He says it's part of the solution.
And farmers and the government is confident to say that is a policy direction.
I haven't heard the government say that. I have heard Dr. Hammond say that.
Yeah, but we need government leadership. We need government leadership. Yeah, we need government leadership on this. And government must act and act quickly and must state its policy intent. If we want to go with what Dr. Hammond is saying, we'll go buy all the clean that is in the system.
Okay, so let's get to issues of debt, because it's one of the major areas of debate. You heard from the Vice President talking about debt stock when he was asked a question about how much they've borrowed ever since they came into office. Were you satisfied with his response?
To be honest with you, I've never enjoyed Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's lectures, and I've never enjoyed his statistics. You recall that His Excellency the Vice President said Ghana's debt total was 39.5 billion. You recall. Today, does he stand by that? He cannot defend that because it was 26.5 billion. Where did he get 13 billion? Again, you heard the Vice President. Very simple question. You said there are resources in the domestic economy to be able to finance development, and you don't need to borrow. You have gone ahead to borrow 40 billion. Is that in sync with what you promised us? Simple as that. And the Vice President was on talking about debt to GDP, how we are borrowing to reduce debt and all of that. Basically, the question essentially wanted him to tell us where we are with fiscal consolidation. Simple. And I was surprised that the Vice President could not tell us what are the numbers in terms of how much revenue we have mobilized domestically, because we're told that you are plucking loopholes, and as a result of that, you'll be able to generate 33% more revenue than we did. We want you to see, and that's what Bernard Able's question was all about. How much of that have you been able to generate? You are unable to answer. How much of your expenditures have you incurred so far? What is the deficit situation? You are unable to answer.
My guest this afternoon, Hot Issues, is Honorable Isaac ADONGO, Member of Parliament for Bogatanga Central, and also member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. When we return after this break, we'll be interrogating this issue further. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, so welcome back from that break, and thanks for staying with us. This is Hot Issues, and I still have Honorable Isaac ADONGO here with me. Yes, so you're talking about your concerns with the figures. Yes, go ahead, and I'll come with my question.
And I'm saying that we moved from 1.84 billion that we expected to 5 billion. And Baumia says when you increase your borrowing to finance the budget from 1.84 to 5 billion, that's fiscal consolidation. Now, if you recall, when the Minister of Finance came to Parliament to answer the question of the 2.25 billion, he made it quite clear that instead of using that money to reprofile debt as we're told, he has spent 1.1 billion of the money to finance the budget. Add that to the 5 billion in the first quarter in April, and you have by the 4 months of this government, 6.1 billion. That gives you an average of 1.5 billion Ghana cedis being added to our public debt. That is frightening, isn't it? On this trajectory, you'll be ending the year around 18 billion Ghana cedis. Is that fiscal consolidation?
Is that fiscal consolidation?
That is worsening the fiscal environment. And that is not surprising because Fitch indicated that we're going to miss our revenue target, indicated in their last report that our deficit will move from the 6.5 that Baumia quoted to about 7.5. And the signs are showing. Now, Dr. Baumia says last year...
But that still will be better than last year.
Really? When you are moving from an economy that you are suggesting is growing, okay, expanding, and moving away from taxation to production.
But that will be a reduction from the 8.6% budget deficit to 7 point something.
Yeah, that is the projection.
Yes.
Before the end of the quarter. Now, 6 months down the line, we are seeing a frightening borrowing regime. And that is telling you that we are going to worsen, one, our fiscal deficit because in the end, we are borrowing more. Two, the performance of our revenue targets are worrying. For the first half of the year, government revenue targets are down by almost about 25%. Those are the figures Baumia didn't want to mention because those figures will expose the government because we had indicated that the figures were unrealistic and could not be achieved. And the signs are becoming very clear. For the people of Ghana, that is worrying because, one, for the first time in many years, workers don't get paid on the 25th, 24th. They get paid after the end of the month. For the first time, the military had to complain that on the 15th they hadn't received their salaries and that if nothing happened by 16th, they were going to take their action. For the first time it happened. For the first time, you realize that our wage bill, which they claim by the first half of the year, we had saved, by the first 4 months, they claimed that our wage bill was only 5.2 and we had saved about 200 million Ghana cedis. The facts are, in April, we classified 436 million of our wages and salaries as ghost names. By May, they had resurrected.
Yes, but they apologize for that.
Yeah, but they had resurrected. So I'm saying that they don't reflect the numbers. So if in April you didn't pay me and you classified me as a ghost, is that savings? Because in May you paid me. So at the end of the day, the wage bill is not even reflecting the true position of your cost expenditure. If you look at the economy right now, the statistics available from the Ghana Statistical Service indicate that minus oil, okay, last year in around the same time, we had done 6.3% growth, what is oil. This year, minus oil, we have done 3.9% growth. That is the reality. That is the reason.
And with oil?
And with oil, we've done close to 6%. Okay, and that is because in the first half of last year, if you recall, we had a problem with the Jubilee fields. The turret bearing issue was there. The FPSO had a problem. We were not being able to produce as much oil. We all knew that the price of oil had tumbled on the world market. The end result is that we ended the year with the oil and gas sector registering a negative 17%. That has recovered. That is not the work of Akufo-Addo's government. That is the work of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. The mining sector has also rebounded in the first quarter of the year. Again, we know that last year, the mining sector was so terrible that we recorded 10.7% negative growth. And that was the reason AngloGold Ashanti and other mining companies laid off their workers.
So why would you want to take a resurrection of the mining sector under this government out of the achievements, because it's contributed towards the growth, and then make reference to it last year when it didn't perform?
Because last year the challenge was with pricing on the world market. Commodity prices on the world market tumbled.
So if it had performed
Honorable
Adongo, if it had performed last year, it would have contributed towards the economy. And I'm sure you wouldn't be saying, for instance, that, oh, this has done well through no, effort of ours.
No, that's what I'm saying. All I'm saying is we need to compare apples with apples.
Yes.
And to compare apples with apples means you have to eliminate those influences that this government have no control over and the previous government had no control over, in order to see what government has control over and can grow. The mining sector, the rebound of the prices on the commodity prices on the world markets cannot be an influence of any of our governments. And so for 6 months, we are seeing the lag effect of policy interventions that they inherited. And that is the point I'm trying to make. And so when you can't find anything that is driving the fundamentals from a policy perspective, then clearly we are still in transition. And the government must say so, that we're in transition.
So the benefits they're enjoying now is something the NDC started?
His Excellency Vice President said last year our 91-day Treasury bill rate was 22%. That was disingenuous. It was 22.8% in January 2016. So is he suggesting from January 2016, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, and Dr. Bawumia were managing this economy up to December? So why do you now want to take credit for the drop in the 91 Treasury bill rate from January 2016 to December 2016 by creating the impression?
What was the rate in December 2016?
In December it was 16.7. So why didn't he say?
What is the rate now?
The rate is about 11.9.
Exactly.
Again, so why didn't he just say so? Why did he?
So at least.
So why did he pick? No, let me. I'll come to explaining that. But first, I want to say that you just don't pick a figure that is deceptive, because if you mention that we ended the year with a deficit of 9.4% and said that's why we ended, and immediately say last year our Treasury bill rate was 22%, every reasonable thinking person will think you are referring to the end of the year. And that is the disingenuity. Why didn't you just say it was 16.7%? Then we'll put it in perspective and then ask the question, what are the clear policy interventions of your government that has brought it down from 16.7 to where we are? Because Bank of Ghana's own projections had indicated last year that by the quarter of 2018, first quarter of 2018, we should be achieving single-digit inflation. Was it because His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo was going to be managing the economy from 2017 when they said that? They said we were on the downward trajectory. In fact, the Monetary Policy Committee's own reviews over the last 1 year has demonstrated a consistent downward trajectory of interest rates. Was it because Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia were managing this economy? So seriously, okay, you cannot point to one single policy initiative that has impacted. And I'm saying these are all the time lag effects of policy interventions of the previous government.
Let's move on to other issues. Why are you against the special prosecutor bill?
One, we aren't against it. We are saying we have to develop a structure and architecture that accommodates the Constitution. The Constitution is quite clear that the mandate for prosecution lies within the ambit of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
Or any person the Attorney General would want to do so as approved by law.
Yes, so you can only only assign. And if the government wants to assign, or the Attorney General wants to assign another entity to do this job, just issue an executive fiat. Because at the end of the day, in accordance
with law.
Yes, and I'm saying so at the end of the day,
a law.
Yes.
Hold on. Yes. Article 88 of the 1992 Constitution makes it simple.
Yeah.
The Attorney General is responsible for all offences, against the states, but can assign somebody in accordance with law.
Yes, we agree.
So you need a law before the Attorney General can assign that person, and that's a special prosecutor.
Let me make the point. What is the intent, the letter and spirit of that section? That section is to ensure that, one, the Attorney General is able to deliver justice as appropriate. If the Attorney General and the government has indicated that they want a prosecutor that is independent of who? Independent of the Attorney General. When you are performing a delegated responsibility, does that make you independent? Of course, it's still the Attorney General that calls the shot. So these are cosmetics. Basically, You cannot tell me that if I decide to assign you to a job.
Why don't you wait? I mean, so the bill has gone through the first reading. It would now be, given to members of the committee. That is when you would know what the provisions are.
Listen, the members of the committee, if you heard the deputy ranking member on the committee, Honorable Dr. Ayene, indicated yesterday that even the members don't have the bill.
So good.
And you are coming to read it a second time.
No, so the point is, you
are coming to read the second time.
Let's get
to who?
I mean, so let's get a parliamentary proceeding. You're in Parliament.
Yes.
After the first reading.
Yes.
It is given to the committee members.
It was referred to the committee.
It's referred to the committee.
They haven't seen
the committee will say so that's the point. So why don't you rather wait, get the bill, then the committee will go through its deliberations on the bill before you can then make some of the comments you're making, because as we speak, if we haven't seen a bill, I might just be speculating.
No, the truth is, you don't need a bill to tell you that that is going to be a delegated authority. It is not a constitutional body. Yeah. So straight away, you don't need a bill to tell you that you're trying to set up a body to work under the Attorney General.
Yes.
Do I need a bill? And that is the comment I'm making.
But getting the body as to how that person would work, the law would determine.
Listen, at the end of the day, constitutionally, the Attorney General, any Attorney General,
or delegate. So
yes, you delegate, and so you can take it back.
The mode of delegation.
What I'm saying
is what we need to know
and
now.
I'm saying that as long as we have not removed that entrenched clause, that body is a cosmetic body, no matter how you frame it, because another Attorney General will say, look, at this point in the development of this country, I don't think that I want to delegate this responsibility. What would that be? What would that mean to you? That, look, you are usurping my powers. Yes, you are legally what we call mandated, but constitutionally I'm superior. I want to take back my powers. What will you do? It will go through the process and scrap them. So at the end of the day, we are just doing cosmetics. We are mentioning the word independent in respect of a prosecutor that is not independent. That is the point I'm making. That is a political office, straight away. Unless you want to convince me that it's going to be a constitutional body. And we have seen constitutionally secured mandates that have been pushed to the wall.
How do you grade an ADONGO government? First 6 months.
First 6 months of talking and struggling to walk the talk. Struggling to walk the talk. Revenues
1 to 10?
3 over 10.
3 over 10?
Yes.
Okay.
In terms of talking, I can give them 100%. But in terms of walking the talk, 3 over 10.
Finally, before we go, we need to just wrap up. What do you make of things happening at the Electoral Commission now? The case in a lot of issues there. There's a petition against the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. I don't know what your thoughts are on that one. Finally.
We knew right from day one that they didn't want the woman. Now they've realized they can't manage the economy. They must get her out in order to put a stooge there. That should not happen in our political dispensation.
How do you prove that?
How do I prove that?
Yes.
How do they prove that the woman should be removed?
These are workers who have petitioned.
Who are the workers? Do you know them?
I don't know them.
So who are the workers? I can call myself a worker under disguise. Do you know the workers?
There's a lawyer who's written the petition.
And has the lawyer showed you the workers?
The lawyer has said if you want the workers, they are willing to come.
Look, the EC has said, chair has said, I want to see who is the person that petitioned me. No faceless workers.
You've seen the lawyer. The lawyer has written that my client is asked to petition.
Who is her client? She should let us know.
He said he would make the clients available upon request.
Why does he want us to request if he knows that
it's not meant for you? It's meant for the president.
The OIC.
Yes.
The EC is a very important office.
It was, per Article 146. You go through, you take it to the president.
Listen to me.
You take it to the president, then the president would refer to the Chief Justice. And then if there's a prima facie case, it's set up a committee.
Listen to me. What is happening, if anybody dares to play this prank on that woman, you are jeopardizing this country. And I can assure you will resist it with our last blood. Nobody should think that you can use any office of the president to get out a constitutionally mandated woman whose tenure of office is secured by any humodious means.
And if you say we will resist it,
we will resist. We in the opposition will resist it. The people of Ghana will resist it. They should deliver on their mandate and get a second term.
Isaac Adongo,
it's my pleasure.
Thank you very much for joining us. All right, so that's all from us this afternoon on Hot Issues. My name is Winston Amani. Heard from Isaac Adongo, Member of Parliament for Bolgatanga Central and Member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Do have a lovely weekend, and I see you on Monday on 3FM 92.7 from 5:55 to 10 a.m. Bye for now.